Okay, so looking at yesterday's price action, very simply we had this green precision appear off the open. So that was our first clue to what was coming. All right, so we're able to take puts near the blue precision in hopes that the green precision would activate and get us to the 5-day MA target, right? That was the target, that was what we were watching for, and we end up getting this nice structure here, a bear flag on the break of magenta, activating that green precision, right? So that was not too bad of a structure. I mean, not the greatest of structure, right? But you're able to see it. That's what matters. Um, Able to take that trade, and that was one big move. That's a blockbuster move. That's the moves you look for, weekly, bi-weekly, whenever they happen. They're amazing, right? So great move down. Um, some follow-up structure, not great, right? Obviously, you don't see too much of an imbalance here, but it attempted, so it was definitely possible. Um, on the flip flip side though, right, that doesn't break down. You get a grind up to the MAs and a break back down through the magenta with green precision activating through the MAs for a starter position, which gets you all the way down to magenta, which at this point you would protect. Um, and then magenta rebuilding liquidity until it finally tests the teal, forming this nice head and shoulder down, right? Um, Stronger imbalance off of teal, a little bit better to trade comparatively to this, where it had no teal involved, so there's no resistance level other than sellers coming in. Instead, waiting for teal to get involved makes life a lot better. You'll notice that with a lot of trades, right? If we lack some sort of continuation or are in the middle of nowhere, instead that'll be liquidity. But if it retests like a pink here, then that move will be more assertive, right? That's where sellers will be. Sellers are following the trend line here, the algorithm here. So you wait for those algos to get retested, right? Um, and from there, we lacked continuation after we closed the inverse cup here. Bears lack continuation on the breakout of their bearish control yellow and magenta and green precision activating through pink break, right? This gives you a starter position then, all the way back up to the MAs, in which case we form a continuation structure. And that was basically the last move of the day. All right, the rest of the day we stayed within magenta. Um, so yeah, moving forward, you'll see now that we've had some selling through this low. That's something to keep an eye on. Looking at the daily, right? We knew that the MAs were converging, which was something I wanted you to keep an eye on. They were converging, not breaking into a trend. And so we had all this liquidity to the left here. The sellers are coming to grab. We want to see if this trend does break down to the downside now. If the sellers keep it below, right, the MAs are going to continuously grind away from each other. So that's what you want to watch for. As long as the MAs, the steeper the 5-day gets from the 20-day, the the stronger the downtrend will be, right? And vice versa. So looking at the 30-minute, right? We're opening up right in the middle of this orange, right? I'm going to place a green here as there's clearly a stronger selling precision that has appeared. Watch to see if we do activate this green through these liquidity levels, right? That'd be the most ideal. Um, Otherwise, it could just use the orange, right? And that's also fine if it happens like this through these blues. That's what you're watching for. Um, Otherwise, if we need to rebuild liquidity, right, we could definitely form up something like this. There would be a starter position long here. I don't think we would get this in today. But if we do retest the MAs within this area later on, there could definitely potentially be a put position from there. Just unlikely to happen today, if that's how it wants to form up. Right, so we'll keep an eye on that. If we get to the MAs today, just be very careful of the wedge, right? And the wedge could expand as well, so just keep that in mind. Um, yeah, oops. So yeah, just very simply, the larger wedge is between this pink, this blue. All right, so as long as we stay within here, we're not going anywhere, right? Keep that in mind. Just because we're currently in a selling continuation, it needs to push through these blue algos to be in a downtrend longer term, right? If we stay within, the MAs are just going to stay converged and in a confused state. Okay. Yeah, so simply right off the open, we're 4 points away from the MAs. Keep an eye on the Qs. The Qs, 5-day and 20-day, are also about 4 points away. It'll be something we're watching for. Currently in that selling continuation, no real reason to look long unless a precision does appear. Of course, when we're scalping off the open, you can do things like that. Um, but for the most part today, if we lack any buying precision, the buyers do not appear today, it's going to be best not to go long, right? As long as we stay below the MAs, we will likely be forming a bear flag. Now, this does activate a buying precision, so keep that in mind. But there isn't really any structure here, so. All right, so it is the end of the month, so something uh, to definitely keep an eye out for is the end of day. If we lack a selling continuation, so if we break down, right? We break down, but then lack to sell off, um, watch to see if the buyers start appearing, and there would be a pink algorithm likely near the top of the range where they'll try to break out from, right? And that's how you could catch a squeeze back to the MAs if they lack that continuation and want to head back to safety. Otherwise, the bottom Bollinger Band is around 678 right now and will continue to head further down. So if they start selling and form a larger bear flag later on within the day, you will see a yellow algorithm within that area. The breakout of that yellow and a day will be something you want to watch for if we're going to head down to the bottom Bollinger Band, right? So there are two targets to be watching for. We're they're basically it's about a 10-point range, right? So about 687 to 677. That's for the end of day, of course. Okay, so far not much is going on. There's a seller trying to activate here. Um, Ideally, if you're going to look short, you would want to see the break and retrace of this range to the downside, right? Now, that'd be more ideal, um, as long as there's some structure here, right? I'm not going to take as many positions as I did yesterday, as this is not nearly as strong as the seller that appeared yesterday in the morning. So it won't be the same kind of deal where I'm scalping this open. I want to wait for a better structure instead. Um, so don't follow the same trick as yesterday. It's different. None of the algos are showing for you, Reckless? Yeah, no, I have a bunch of algos drawn down right now. Well, about three. Um, are you? Could you refresh and tell me if you see them? You do any of you guys see the algos? Could you let me know? Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. I don't know. Maybe restart your computer. It's weird. It's happened to me before. So I would guess you probably just got to restart it. I really wouldn't know. Okay, so let's read the range here. Right. Technically now this range has expanded. It's not a very large range, right? Just be patient here. It's really not much going on. Um, just allow for it to expand, right? Otherwise, break and retraces are always best, right? So if the buyers appear here and you see it's controlled, right, there'd be a possible long within this area, or vice versa. Awesome, you figured it out. Okay, so we do have a stronger control within this area. Again, break and retrace is always best. You see a stronger precision appearing, right? So that's great. We have that seller activating. This is actually going to activate an even stronger seller within this green precision. Keep an eye on that 30-minute, right? We're headed into the blue algos. We're pushing through the first. Watch that 680.78 level. Right? Ideally, if there's a breakdown, you could see it happening below this, right? So we'd be able to catch it like this. Okay, so you have that breakdown. It could be contained within the teal, but do keep in mind that it was selling in the blue and the green, so that was the strong seller. So at this point, right to go long, I would rather you wait for teal break within a buyer's precision. Just be very careful of the magenta control. Watch this closely. That's a large green candle. Contained within the blue, magenta resistance. Not much structure going on here. So if you're taking any position, right, you got to guide with precision. There's also this pink. I'm now going to draw this out so you can see it with the wedge, how we could form up a wedge very quickly if there is a lack of continuation off the rip for both sides. Right, so if the buyers appear but fail to break out of this high, right, you have to be very careful. Okay, so buyers have appeared. This is pushing above the magenta control. It's the problem with such a condensed range. And these larger candles you have to be worried of, especially if you're trying to go short on big green candles. You got to be very, very wary of that. Just be careful. All right, you see the green buyer's precision. You see that we're still selling within teal. We're back into the magenta control. These candles are engulfing each other, right? You have to be careful. It's going to be safer to wait for this or this, right? I'd ideally want to see some type of structure form here first before going short. Otherwise, if it's in the strongest precision, you will see a break and retrace below, right? So just be careful here. You don't need to do anything quite yet. Yeah, just be patient. All right, wait for the buyers to appear, pushing through above this high here, and retracing right within the green precision. Ideally, you'd see it happen with the green precision. If not, just be more patient. If the sellers come in after a push up here and the buyers lack control, this could easily sell back off. So just keep that in mind. So if we head up, but the buyers lack control here, this is something that could happen very quickly. So just keep that in mind. So a breakout retrace, ideally, right? Again, try to read the structure, what's going on here. All right. Truthfully, this isn't exactly what I would want. I'd want it to be deeper for an inverted head and shoulder, right? It'd be a lot better if this whole thing instead becomes the left shoulder, right? So if we were to sell off later within the day, right, have something like this form up, this would be much more preferred. Um, With that being said, be more careful of taking any position within this. Don't lack a strong imbalance really for anything. As of now, you see a head that could be for the buyers, still within this range here. Trying to keep this range support. And this would be the head compared to this, right? But again, I'd like to see a deeper head. I wouldn't want to go long unless I could see a deeper head forming or a break and retrace here. Otherwise, you'd have to be scalping really, really freaking good fills around the orange and magenta supports. Right? The best time is if it would do it like this, right? Just grinding up with the orange. You could go long on that pink and orange support. Your hopes would be that the volatility would come in after the stop losses get triggered here. Right? There's not much liquidity to the downside, so if you're taking position or looking to take position short, you have to get a good fill, right? Don't take position if you can't, for one, see clearer structure or get a good fill with precision. It's going to save you. Just wait Wait for the next structure to form up if it has to. If it wants to break down now, you can wait for this. You could wait for this. What I'm getting at is any structure you see within any microstructure, you have to be sized down, right? You, you can't be scaled up and take something big here, right? So if you see that it's magenta resistance, teal resistance, and you want to take puts within this area, right? You need to know how to guide it. Always read the in-between structure, right? Orange will be support, right? You see this here, this support here, this support here. So you see how potentially things could line up, right? And then this could also happen if we lack continuation to the downside. Keep that in mind. On the other end, you know that there's sellers here. There are sellers here. So that's how teal resistance works. And the pink resistance above here. So you see how much of a problem this could be to trade if you don't get a good fill. Right, so just be careful. Zoom out if you got to. You can understand what's going on, right? You still see that head that's formed. You see the orange support. You see the teal resistance, right? It's a very condensed range, right? Why take anything in between if you don't have to? You're not forced to take a trade here. This could be potentially forming, right? Um, if that's the case, right, it's just still not a great trade to take it to here. It's better to wait, right? Wait for the break and retrace. If it has to, right, it can break, retrace out of this. A magenta here, and this will get you to the MA target. Just be very careful. If you're taking the long off of orange support here, right, for example, you have to protect before the pink. How many times do you see a weak, thin structure look like it's activating your precision and then break right down? It's because on thinner structures, you wait for it to confirm the move, then retrace as support. It's the big key difference you'll see when a precision activates in a thinner structure. Okay, so if you're scalping anything, just know what to guide with, who's buying, who's selling, where you're currently at and everything, right? Where you could wait for a short, right? There's better positioning if this wants to happen now, right? Or if this needs to happen as well, or if we want to make a larger bear flag later on, right? And in this case, there'd be a magenta within here, right? Clear structure is just always going to be safest when it's chopping around. Remember what I talked about? I drew out the wedge early because of the fact that, I mean, you could easily tell this is a thinner structure for this to head up, right? Literally off of that green candle, I had a feeling that something like this could happen. So I just instantly drew out the wedge because of the fact there was a high possibility of this happening, especially on a Friday when it's so much more likely to have something end of day instead of right off the open, right? If you're looking at this now, hopefully, you know, it's gone sideways enough to tell you probably not to trade. Man, this is painful to watch. Nothing happening. As soon as I say that, okay, let's hope something does come out of this. Again, it'll be safer to wait for that break and retrace as support. Otherwise, keep in mind it's still condensed within or contained, sorry, within this range here. So if you went long on the pink break, you 100% should be protected by now for the magenta. Just always keep in mind though what I was talking about when it's not great structure. I mean, you can see it was holding support, sure, that's fine. You saw the buyers appearing here. You need to get protected though ASAP, right? Because we're waiting for the retrace out of this range, right? It's better if it especially if it pushes above magenta, right, to break out to the MAs. So watch to see if the buyers will push up, right? The buyers fail to push this out of this range. You'll see that there's a potential short position within this area, right? Just be careful, right? We technically haven't formed any strong imbalance yet. If you're looking to short, right, watch to see if the buyers do break and retrace, and if they fail, right, if they fail, there will be possible positioning within these areas, especially if it gets contained within magenta, right? So if it happens like this, gets contained, otherwise if it pushes up, right, up and above, this would be ideal to go long. So how is this going to sell off, right? Prior seller was within the blue and green. So unless you see that activating, be very careful. Keep an eye on the 30-minute chart and see where we're at. Keep an eye on the Qs as well. They're about 2 points away now from their 5-day MA and 20-day MA. Again, better for the buyers to push above magenta. If you took any retrace long here, right, you gotta be protected by now as well. Okay, magenta becoming support, green precision. Another scalp entry that's possible. Just gotta get protected ASAP if you take anything like that. Instead, I'm going to wait for more confirmation still. I'm a bit wary of going long just because of the fact that the MA is being right above. I can wait for that instead. Otherwise, I am just a bit wary of the fact that this could be a larger bear flag. Why? Because look at the 30-minute, right, where we contained when or selling off in, right? We're still in this green selling precision, and we are still in orange selling continuation, right? So I'm a bit wary of taking any breakout longs because of that. Okay, it's not buying in that green anymore. Magenta still holding support. There's a weaker buying algorithm involved here, though. Read the structure, right? Buyers have pushed through this. So they can continue higher like this, right? Just be careful. Just keep reading the structure. At this point, if you're in long, you can guide with the orange. If you're looking to go short instead, what's going to be safer, right? if you're looking to Zomi, magenta and orange are going to be your best friend on their breaks, right? Just look for structure on anything you take, microstructure or not. Okay, so orange break, back within magenta. What could be forming a larger structure here? It may now be activating precision. All right, so there was position here. That's what I was getting at. Um, I took it right here, protected by here now. This was pretty, not the most obvious thing, but remember what I was talking about with the bear flag, right? The hopes is now that it does continue to keep selling, right? Obviously, we don't know if that will happen. So just get protected before then. If you're in position, great. If you're not, that's okay. Wait for magenta. Right? So just going over what I saw. I saw this high that was forming and the buyers failing to push and make a newer high here. Instead, what happened is the sellers appeared, pushing us back into magenta on that orange break, right? Right, level by level. See how these strong these sellers get here. Right, they're gonna head down to VWAP in the pink. That'll be the next target. That's what we want to see. See if it's got any more in the tank. Guide as long as you can within precision. Obviously get protected by here. Okay, not too bad of a short there if you were able to see it. Well done. Right, that's why I was watching for the bear flag as understanding the 30-minute. You see the magenta. Buyers here, not the strongest of structures. Instead, better to wait for this break and retrace, right? Okay, so now to go long, very simple, right? If you see this happening, or the buyers appearing below with the pink after forming some structure here, right? Makes life easy. If you don't see that happening, well, you're prepared for the downside. Just be very careful in any position you take, right? Um, just at this point now, watch the algos. Let them explain to you what's going on. If you see precision buyers appearing, right, pushing above the pink, you understand that this is a break and retrace. I took the short here, and this could still be valid for more downside, but it's not selling in blue anymore. I don't want it anymore. I sold here and then cut on the break, right? Not going to hold for that. Instead, I would rather wait, right? You'll see when I'm taking, because technically this is a Zomi, right? We were pushing out, attempting to start this uptrend. So this is a Zomi because I knew that price would likely retrace back towards this range with pink to form the break and retrace, right? So I followed the structure, protected, and once I see buyers appearing at this level, I don't want to continue to stay in the counter trend as this is the next level that they need to protect, right? So with that being the case, you now know then to wait, right? They're not buying in anything quite yet. They're still selling in teal, right? Magenta's below. You can wait for magenta below now. If they want to come grab this liquidity, you would likely see it happen like this, right? Retest, form up a structure, and then break down, right? Out of the pink. So that could happen. If that happens, right, that's not a bad trade at all. But for now, I want you to see that it's slowing down, right? The market is not nearly as volatile as it was yesterday. Right, you didn't get a strong sell-off like we did quite in the morning right here, right? This was a lot stronger selling compared to this. So you just be patient and you wait, right? Wait for the main algos, wait for the main structures to form. If you really want, you can wait for this cup to close and a handle to form to break down, right? At this point to go long, right? Buyer's precision, if they want to break and retrace out of here, right? You'd see it happen like that. Right, so we have a little bit of divergence from the 30 minute to the 1 minute right now, right? Because the market's in a confused state. The MAs are close to each other, so this isn't uncommon to see, and especially on a Friday. This should tell you right off the rip to probably slow down, right? We're in a selling continuation on the 30 minute, but currently on the 1 minute, we're in a buying continuation, right? So that's divergence. That tells you there's confusion in the market, right? If you're reading just the 1 minute chart, you'd want to go long. If you're reading the 30-minute chart, you're thinking to yourself, why isn't this going down? Right? So when that happens, you you got to be safer. You got to be more careful, wait for more confirmation. The best thing you can do as of right now is if you've already caught, let's say you caught this trade or this trade, right? Either this breakout or this breakdown, right? Wrap up, come back later today, probably like end of day to Friday. You don't need to overtrade this. Set alerts at the 5-day and 20-day MA. Well, sorry, just the 5-day MA is fine. And the magenta below, sorry. And come back to see if there's a trade after the retests of those, right? It's a Friday. Why overtrade today? There's really no reason to. Um, Instead, do that. Set alerts, come back in a day if you want. Nothing in between. I promise you're not missing anything right now. Only thing that's going to happen is the market is going to go up or it's going to go down, right? And neither of which you should be concerned with. The only thing that you do is find profits in the chart. All right, so less volatile state. If you guys would like, you can ask some questions for now for the last few minutes here. Um, if anybody has any questions, right, go ahead and ask. I'm more than welcome to answer for now. I think the market's likely to do nothing. If anything, right, you're gonna want to see this liquidity here grabbed, right? Let me draw that a little better. This liquidity here grabbed. You see there's not much liquidity within this area, so instead wait for that break and retrace again, showing that the blue or the green precision is appearing. Not as best if it's with the orange. It could happen with the orange, right? Where the buyers show up. But just be a little bit more cautious, right? Either that liquidity gets grabbed or they break and retrace above, right? Yeah, definitely could be pretty fun end of day. Um, Looking at this, I mean, you're either going to return back to safety or sell off to the bottom Bollinger Band, right? That's what I'm saving my ammo for. If there's something like that to happen in a day, um, that's just much better to trade overall. Keep an eye on the Qs as well. They almost retested their lowest print of the 5-day MA here, about 30 cents off. So I'm going to set an alert for that. Um, you could do the same as well. You may see some activity happen on that. Um, Everything else currently is just, right, it's in a weird divergence state where not much is going on. You see the lowered volume as well, right? When you see volumes on a descending path like that, downhill path, you're just not looking to really get involved with it. It's just not worth your time. You know where the liquidity is in this area, right? This high, this low. So if anything's gonna happen in between, right? Those would be possible starter positions. So I was waiting for looking 942. Oh yeah, so ideally that big green candle doesn't happen like that. And if it does, you see that the sellers contain it within the blue. Um, that big green candle like that tells you a buyer is appearing, you have to be a little bit cautious, right? Because technically the trend hasn't been considered a downtrend until we break and retrace down, right? So until this happened, right, we weren't in a downtrend. Instead, what happened is the buyer showed up and reclaimed this range, right? So it's not ideal to go short this early when a big green candle like that appears, right? And not until the trend is confirmed. Um, there's a difference there, right? So if we're already in a downtrend, right, and then a big green candle appears at a resistance level, right? It's a lot easier to short it because you had confirmation on this downtrend. But here, what I was watching for, right, was if this candle appeared, you'd see that the resistance would hold below this level, right? So if we were to stay down within and then wait for a breakdown either by building more liquidity here, right, like a nested head and shoulder, this would have been ideal. There wasn't much liquidity here. Otherwise, if it has to happen fast, you see that precision holding, right? The precision holding tells you the sellers are still selling through these levels, right? We had confirmation on the blue precision and even the green precision. That didn't happen. Instead, what happened is this big green candle appeared, pushing through blue, and then buyers show up and started to reclaim this liquidity level. That's a good question. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people um, lack the understanding of that, right? Um, anytime a breakdown happens, especially off a thin structure, you don't take the instant retracement, especially when it's a big green candle, unless you can see the precision holding, right? That's the only time you do that. Because of the fact that, like I was, of the key points before, right? Well, how do inverted head and shoulders appear, right? A breakdown happens. It needs to happen. But what also happens for that inverted shoulder to appear? The buyers appear, right? So if you know that the buyers are appearing here, you have to be a lot more careful, right? When those buyers appear, you know you have to be more patient, right? That's why I was telling you the safest bet was to either wait for this break and retrace, seeing that this level becomes resistance, or allowing, and let me leave that on the screen for a second longer, that level becoming resistance. You'd see that with magenta, right? The break and retrace. You'd see it becoming resistance within precision, because guess what this would be then? This would be continuation, right? That will save you in the long run if you just wait for that. There's so many traps right off the morning without proper continuation. You have to be careful. Otherwise, if it didn't break, instead you could have watched for the nested head and shoulder to appear, right? And that never appeared either, right? So we never even retested the bottom magenta. Um, yeah, it's definitely, like I said, there's that's the thing with trading is there's so many different tricks, right? You got to be careful. You got to be very patient and waiting for setups that are clear to you. Um, I was talking to a buddy yesterday about trading and something I explained to him. There's probably about 100 different patterns that the market has and about three different techniques for each pattern to trade them, right? Well, that I use and that you would use in day trading. So there's a lot of patterns, right? With different techniques. It makes it a lot harder to understand what's going on. Right, exactly. Well, and then actually waiting for that continuation to actually appear, right? Um, it'll help you a lot more. Wait for more confirmation and continuation is always your safest bet, right? It's always your safest bet because we technically were attempting to break away from this range. We didn't break away from the range, right? We were only attempting to. We had a breakdown here, but instantly pushed back within, right? So uh, there is a difference there, right? Once you see that it is clearly breaking away with precision, that's when you could take the trade. Yeah, of course. It's a good question. Okay, so at this point, like I was saying before, take a break, right? If there's anything, it'll be end of day. That's when all the fun happens, if there's any fun, right? End of month, end of week, end of day, right? Volatility, or sorry, the contracts premiums are going to move like crazy. You'll make much more money, especially if you're using a small account. You should be practicing maybe one trade in the morning, and then looking for trades near afternoon when larger imbalances form, to maximize profits with option trading, right? So, okay, guys, I'm gonna get on out of here. Everybody have a good weekend. I will be posting on when a workshop will happen. I'll probably do a live Q&A again. Um, we'll see what we can do. Probably tomorrow or Sunday. We'll see. I don't know exactly when. And there will probably be another training video that comes out as well. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get on out of here. Everybody enjoy your weekend.